or reddish?
No, you look fine, sir.
Okay, it's amazing. On mine, I'm looking very red. Well, welcome to the Writers Workshop, everybody. So good to see you, and so good to have you, check in. We have Brother Chris Thomas, as you can see. He's there, always leading the charge for us, and the man with the plan. So glad to have this opportunity to be on this platform every single Friday night. Brother Chris, let me ask you a quick question. Hey, oh, whoa, bro. How
Hi, I've
you
missed
doing?
you.
Good
Good.
to
How are
see you. Good
you?
to see you. So glad you came on. Yeah, I know you have some things kicking.
Hey, Miss Rowe, how are you, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. Go ahead, Dr. Gasson.
I
My
need
apologies.
to ask you about the whole Facebook thing when it talks, it comes down to blocking you and all this kind of stuff. I got two messages in the last, I would say, let's say last month, saying that violations and you've been certain content's been blocked. I don't even know what they're blocking at this point and
Yes,
whatever.
sir.
So they don't tell you what a violation is.
No, they used to show you, like, if you violated a copyright, they would put the piece that you used that was a potential copyright violation.
Yeah.
But they have gotten kind of slack on that. They'll tell you violated, and then you can't, fight the violation because you don't have any proof of what you violated.
And
So
I'm
that's
wondering
what they
if
went
because
to.
I read remember some of the poetry or different things I read out of the one book last week, 1619 Project. I gave it full credit,
Sure.
and I just very famous poems, and I thought, I wonder if that's it. I could not for the life of me think what they're referring to because they don't tell you,
Was it for the
but
Wordshop or was it for something else that you
it
did?
didn't say. It just said it didn't say the content. It said the content that you use, and it's some of the content's been blocked. It didn't say where it's been blocked. So I'll
No.
let you look at it one day. Maybe you can help me
Okay.
decipher.
Yeah, normally it would be a song. I've never heard someone read something and get a copyright strike, at least not in
Yeah,
my
and I
experience.
don't play any music, as you know, on anything. Not even
Sure.
when we do our church service, we don't play any music or anything. You
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Strange.
So
We'll have to take a look
I
at it
have no
sometime.
idea.
And you can send
Yeah,
a message to
yeah.
customer support, but that's like pulling teeth, man. You normally
I
don't
did. I
get
pulled
a response
something. I
right
sent.
away.
They asked me to respond, and even the responses didn't seem to be consistent with what I wanted to ask them. So I
Sure.
just sent them something saying, But anyhow, I thought, I know you know this stuff, but we'll talk.
Okay, so be it, sir.
All right. But that's something I want to say to all the listeners out there. First off, Ro Brady, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. You become a Washingtonian all of a sudden, we're still mad at you, but we're not saying it out loud,
Uh,
not out loud at all. She
okay.
left us. Can't believe it. We felt abandoned and hurt. It's all good though. How's your husband doing?
Oh, he's doing well. Quite busy over here.
Yeah, I was going
Quite.
to say, tell us about his position. The reason why you guys moved to DC, he got a position down is it with the Biden administration or what's going on?
He's sort of got several pans in the fire, let's so to speak. He was
Mhm.
appointed this on the cabinet working with legislation that involves people living with disabilities by President Biden. So he does that.
Fantastic. Okay.
But he's also the executive director for NICL, which is the National Council on Independent Living. And
Wow.
why we moved was he had to travel back and forth to Washington several times a week, so we
Hmm.
decided to move here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead, Theo Brady. Fantastic. That's good for him. Good for both of you. Wow. Good stuff. If anyone deserves it, he certainly does. That's great. Great, great. And keep it moving. And I'm following you on Facebook, so I see you involved in all kinds of great things happening. Good stuff. Tell us
Well,
about some of your adventures.
I haven't really ventured into a lot of stuff locally, but I think that's, when you do stuff virtually, you can do a lot of stuff. I've
Yes.
been doing a lot more writing because I'm not working right now. Uh,
Hmm.
what have I really been doing? I'm part of an anthology. I've been promoting this new part of my, it's a prequel to a book that I'm writing now, but it's also going to be in an anthology. It's called
Okay.
Basil's Ragtime Blues. So I've been
Yeah.
putting bits and pieces of it on
Hmm.
my social media, just trying to warm up everybody to
Hmm.
the anthology. And then
Great.
I'll be working on the actual book, which is called Free Love. and
Wow.
it's historical romance. So I've been diligently working on that. And I've actually finished another poetry book.
Fantastic. Good for you. Okay.
Yes.
So, and you have a date for when you might publish it and get it out
Well,
there so we
actually,
can.
this one, and it was funny because I submitted it to several traditional publishers,
Mhm.
and I submitted to one, and they liked it, but they wanted more.
Mhm.
So I got a call back telling me that if I can make it as, a full book, that they would look at it again. So I've
Okay.
been diligently over here, like,
All right.
writing a lot of poetry lately. And today I finally got to 10,500. So, and they wanted, in the 10,000 range. So I finally got there, and I was like, I'm just going to give them a little more just in case.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's 30 poems along with 3 short stories.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Can't
I'm
wait to
gonna
read
just
it.
continue submitting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Keep it going. But that's you though. I mean, that is absolutely you. You have really made a name for yourself and a mark by being consistent, persistent and excellent. So just keep it up,
I have to let you know that I finally finished the booklet to my editing services too. So I'm
Oh.
gonna be starting that. Remember, I told you I was not quite ready because I had so many things, with trying
Mhm.
to move and all of that.
Mhm.
I finally finished the book.
Okay.
So I'm going to be putting that out. So as soon as I get ready, and I say probably by the mid-September,
Okay.
so I will definitely send you everything.
So if I wanted to hire you to edit my manuscript, you'll be up and ready and running by mid-September.
I will be.
All right. Listen, you probably have a client right here sitting in front of you.
Perfect. And it was funny because I did the workshop for my church,
Mhm.
and one of the participants, who is an attorney, said
Mhm.
to me, "You really need to do this. I know you want to do it for free for your church, but you should really do this and think about, as a business." And I went back and I thought about it and was like, yeah, maybe I
Mhm.
should. So I've decided to start.
I'm so glad you are. And we're always looking for editors, of course, and you know that. And so to know somebody and to know that they're a quality person who's really serious about the work, yeah, this is good. This is very good. I will be sending you some stuff. That's my promise I'm making here on the Life Esteem that I will be
All righty.
so
Yeah.
ready.
I have a couple more things I need to do, but my booklet with,
Mhm.
all the services I finally finished that last week. So I have a couple more things to add to that, and
Okay.
I'll be up and going.
All right. Let's make it happen. Good, good, good. So that's a great thing. So just think about that for a minute. This is talking in general. You don't have to give away your secrets or anything about the booklet, but folks don't understand just how important editing is. Why is editing so important from your standpoint?
I think if you have something that's not very well edited, it does not make you seem like a credible writer.
Right. Absolutely.
And there's people putting out stuff on Amazon that they're just out for a quick buck.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, and the other thing, and I was sharing this with a lot of new writers, is don't edit your own stuff.
Listen, I was a lazy writer and maybe still am at some points, but yeah, you put it out there, and once it's out there, and then you start looking at the mistakes that are out there, it really does smack you in the face, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
it doesn't make you feel good at all.
At least get beta readers, if nothing else. And I have a whole group of individuals who beta read for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, when you mention beta readers, and this is something you've introduced before, do they generally do it, because they know you and they like you and they just want to do it, or is it a fee kind of thing? How does that work?
Well, like Queenie is an amazing beta reader.
Okay.
She just beta read my Basil's Ragtime Blues for me. And she's really, really good. She doesn't charge me anything, but we do a lot of bartering.
Yeah.
Like she works with a lot of different authors and promoters. So I told her, I said, okay. She said, I will give you promotions. And I said to her, I said, okay, well then I'll format for you. So we do a lot of just
That's the way to do it. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's good.
and I look at like the services that I can offer, the services she can offer, and we just help each other out. So
Good way to do
yeah.
it.
Mhm.
But outside of Queenie, the other beta readers that you have, they just kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah, I just have really good friends who are really, really very thorough with reading.
And these are people that not that they're just friends, but they're people that you know are quality beta
Yes.
readers.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's if I would give any piece of advice to a new author is don't get stuck on your writing and think, oh, this is perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and submit it because you really can't see your own errors because you've been too close to it.
Yes.
And sometimes what I do, like with this Basil's Ragtime Blues, is I have to step away from it, not look at it for a few days. And then I come back to it. It was like, oh, there's not a comma there. Oh, it's, and I find all the little mistakes. I clean it up as much as I can, and then I send it off to the beta reader. Because here's the thing about editing. It's like you also want to make sure that you have found everything that you can find because it makes less work for the editor and they're going to charge you less.
Absolutely. That makes sense. No question. Yeah, I've done that too. I've stepped away from a piece and stepped back and realized that as I was writing it, I was thinking it. But I missed 2 or 3 words because I was thinking, but you know what? I didn't write it down because it was up here, but it didn't translate to there. So
then the other thing is to listen to it. Like I put it on my computer and I listen to it. And I go word from line, word from word.
Now, when you say you listen to it, what do you mean? I mean, so you're typing it out in your computer and then you have a computer that reads it back to you? Okay, now how's that done?
Well, so I have a Mac and it has a read aloud. And that reads
out of here. Okay, so you know what? I wasn't familiar with that. That's interesting.
Most computers, I think, have a read aloud.
I'm sure mine has all kinds of stuff I don't know about.
Yeah, it probably has a read aloud. And if you hear it, that's another thing. But even in that, you can still miss stuff. So I still read it over like 4 or 5 times.
So wait a minute now. You're telling me that on my now I have what is this, a HP? Okay, this is HP, whatever that is. Okay, that's not a Mac, I guess.
It's probably somewhere in your editing program. There should be a read aloud.
It's called the editing program and a read aloud.
Well, you should have a read aloud somewhere. Like I just go into, I think I go into view or in let me see. I don't know if I can. Let me see. Insert. I'm trying to remember what's it under on mine.
Okay.
I have it up now. I just go, it's a read aloud.
And it says read aloud.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like this. Wait a minute.
Dinner went on silently for the next hour. Gertrude didn't stay. She quietly pushed herself back up.
So it reads it word from word, and you can slow down the pace. You can change, like if you want a woman to read it, a man to read it. And that really helps with editing. I found when I listen to it, and what I do first is before I look for any grammatical errors or, any, formatting as far as what it looks like, I listen to the story. Does the story have cadence to it?
Okay.
I just close my eyes and I sit here and if I can picture everything that I know developmentally, it's a strong story. And then I do it again. And I'm looking at word from word. Then I look for just proofreading, simple typos. I go back and fix all my typos. And then I do it again. I look for punctuation. I only look for punctuation, capitalization. So, yeah.
Good stuff. So, yeah, you and I, we got to talk. I mean, this is amazing. I had no idea that our computer could do that. I'm being very honest. And, and you found yours under what? Editing, you said?
Yeah, it's under editing. Yeah, but I don't have mine isn't a PC. So it might be different on an HP.
Okay, yeah, but you're saying it may be there, but it's just
it probably my old computer. I think my old computer is a Dell, but even my Dell, I was sure had it.
Okay. But so I probably need to invest in another computer and get a Mac.
Well,
And
probably not. You probably don't need to invest. You probably just need to find out where it is.
where it is. Okay.
Because
Okay.
I'm sure my Dell and my I had a Dell and an HP, but like
Mhm.
software that I use to format my books, it's not supported by anything except Mac right now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
I went
yeah.
ahead and just got the Mac so I could use Vellum to
Okay.
format.
One of the things we may need to do one day down the line here is to have you introduce your service by doing a mini workshop online here about editing and why it's so important. And then we can introduce you to the writing community. I'll be learning it because I'm learning right now. I mean, this is pretty cool stuff. And so yeah, and I will say I was listening to a broadcast once, and it was, oh, who was it? It was a famous writer, and she had her own little, I guess, podcast. And I'm driving down the road, and I heard her talking. I said, oh, let me check this out. It's on Sirius XM, and she had different authors that called in, and they were saying a lot of the same things, just saying about people just throwing stuff out there on Amazon without editing. And that was one of their pet peeves, and they were really going off about that and how unprofessional that is, and blah blah blah. So it's a hot topic, and if you're serious about writing, as you said, people want to know you're serious. And so you have to take the time to edit your stuff to make sure that, it's done correctly.
I think they also need to know that there is more than what, there's a difference between proofreading and editing.
Yeah, okay. Break it down for us.
Well, like proofreading is just simply like, okay, did I leave out a letter? Did I leave out, a punctuation? That's proofreading. You're just looking for simple errors.
Sure.
But if you're looking for, line edit is where you're going in and you're looking really at the flow of the story. You're looking at like, okay, like I was just a friend of mine, I'm doing my newsletter. And she sent me her piece, and I gave her suggestions on how to make your sentences flow and not make them so wordy. And that's line edit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have the developmental edits. Like, okay, so say you call the guy Pete in the first chapter, but suddenly down in the 5th chapter, his name is now David. So you go through each one and make sure your story lines up. That's developmental. Like if you're looking at like a timelines are really important. Like if you say it was 3:00 in the afternoon when so-and-so sat down on the sofa, but in the next chapter, that individual is like putting on their pajamas, like, wait a minute, there's a discrepancy here. So you go line by line, and that's developmental.
There's a guy that's on Facebook, and I'm a Facebook guy, and he was breaking down movies. He said, have you noticed some of the great errors? And based on what you just said, and he was showing you some things, and I've seen these movies, but I never caught those things. He said, check it out. Now, how is it going to have, and he was talking about how it was a period piece. So there's no way that car should have been in that scene based on the timeline that this movie.
And that's another thing.
Stuff like that, yeah.
That's another thing.
And
yeah,
then
like a historical romance.
Right, yeah.
You have to be so careful with clothing. And it's better to leave out a lot of detail about like particular clothes or particular, like make it more general, but still put the history in there and don't make it so detailed, because your reader is like, if you're talking about like the piece I'm writing now is in the 1900s. I might research, and it's about Black vaudeville.
Okay.
So I don't want to make it history heavy. I want to give you the mood of what was happening without putting a lot of that detail in. Like I wrote a scene where I was talking about the plume of a woman's hat. And I didn't tell you, all I said was she was wearing a hat with a purple plume. Only thing I researched was knowing that feathers were big. We were talking about the 1900s, and you're talking about like the flapper type outfits. That's not a central part of the story. So I'm just going to give you just a gist because it fits in what happens.
Yes.
I'm not going to give you all that, because then your readers are going to focus on like pencil skirts. They weren't wearing pencil skirts in the 1900s. Why do you have that in there?
There you go. Yeah. That's good stuff, Ro. Good stuff. For those persons who don't know, Ro is a teacher. I won't say a former teacher because we teach him right now, as far as I'm concerned, a teacher. And so Tell us a little bit about your background as far as getting into writing. I mean, did you start writing because you went to college and majored in English or something like that? Or did you start writing out of a hobby? Or what prompted you to start writing?
I was just always one of those little nerdy kids that carried notebooks around with them. Did you ever remember the book? Oh gosh, who was it written by? I can't even think of the author's name, and I loved that book as a child. It's Harriet the Spy.
Yes.
I remember Harriet the Spy. I think the author's last name is Fitzgerald.
You got me on that.
I think it's Fitzgerald. I cannot remember her first name, but she used to be, it was my favorite book of all time. And I remember getting this book. You remember the bookmobile?
Yes, oh yeah, sure.
I took this book out at the bookmobile and I read it like in one day. And I was determined to be Harriet the Spy. And I remember my mother had an old pair of glasses that didn't have the lenses in them. And this was before I needed glasses. So I was like, Mom, can I have those old frames? And I wore them. I was just like a strange kid. I wore these glasses and they were the cat eye frame glasses. Yeah. And I had a little notebook and a pencil. And I would sit and I would just start writing these stories down, like just like Harriet the Spy.
Right.
But I started to love just writing and starting to read. So then when I got to, school, it was the thing that I excelled in. And then, I took advanced English classes and then, anything that I could do with literature, I was doing that. So it just always had a love of words and a love of writing and a love of reading.
Right on. Now, did you actually major in English when you were in college?
No, I didn't. I had a really funny trajectory for college. I started off as a nursing major.
Okay.
And that was only because my father said, I really wanted to go into theater. And my father said, basically, you won't find a job. He said, you're going to grow up to be a Black woman. You're not going to find a job in theater. And he was like, I forbid you. My father came from a family of 16 and there were only 2 boys and they had to leave. They were sharecroppers and he had to leave school to work this little piece of land. So when he said, no, not my daughter is going to have a job. So he gave me suggestions that really weren't suggestions. He said, okay, you're either going to be a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, or a teacher. You got these 4 to pick from. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
So I ended up starting off school as a nursing major, but I hated it because I worked in a nursing home. And I'm a clingy person. I fell in love with the residents. And when they started to pass away, I was like, I can't do that. Yeah. So I ended up changing my major and becoming an education major. And I stumbled on that accidentally when I was in the nursing home. I met a woman, her name was Mina. And she was they didn't call it special ed at that time. She worked in a Native American Navajo reservation. And she started telling me about these kids that basically had fetal alcohol syndrome and how, attached she got. And I went to my advisor and I was like, I think I'm going to be an education major. Right. So I switched my major. I ended up going into special ed and early childhood and graduated with that. And then, back then, this was like when they certified you for life.
Yeah.
Literally. So I was teaching English and teaching math. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to go get certified in middle school English. So the ELA and then math. So
good stuff.
That.
Yeah, that was the springboard because here you are. I don't know how many books and novellas and everything else later, but here you are, Good stuff. Yeah, very inspirational. Everything when you come on and you talk about, these various things that you're doing and also the mechanisms behind them. I mean, the whole piece of the computers reading back your stuff to you, read aloud, unbelievable. I didn't know that existed, And who do you have here? Somebody's coming in on this? Okay. From Writers Wordshop Live. You may be able to find it under search on your computer. Text to speech. Okay, drag and drop. Okay, thanks. Is that Brother Chris saying that? Text to speech. Thank you, Brother Chris. Okay, that's great.
And then you can put, what, do you have an iPhone?
Yes. No, I have the Android.
Android. Oh, the Android users. There's also one on your iPhone, because I listen to it, like if I'm driving,
Mhm.
I'll listen to what I wrote then too.
Oh,
Always listening to it, like, okay, how does this sound? If I'm the reader or the
Mhm.
listener, how does it sound to me?
yeah, that's important. That is very important, Wow, yeah. It's interesting. I'm doing the online magazine. I hope that you'll submit something someday. And I know
I did.
yeah, I know you did. That's right. You did the first one,
Yeah.
the first issue. Now we
Well,
have one out for August.
well,
No,
you
we
said
did a
you
piece
were
in
gonna put,
August.
well, no, I submitted when you first put out the request, but you said you didn't have room. So you said it was going to be in the next one. I don't even remember what I submitted, but I know I did.
Yeah, you well, hopefully. So was that the first or the second one? I'm trying to figure, because it came out in July, then August. Now we're looking for September. So whatever wasn't included the first time or second time, it will be included this time. At least that's what I was told. And I want to make sure that happens. I have to talk to Sarita, is her name, Henderson, who does a fantastic job. But she receives all of the excuse me, the submissions, and then we just got to make sure that all of them are being housed and then incorporated, because we're not rejecting anything. We're just making sure that we have enough room for them. The one thing, at first we got a lot of material, and the magazine could have been 100 pages. You know what I mean? And we didn't want that. But anyhow, we're trying to keep it down to where it's manageable. It's online. It's free, and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah. But thank you for submitting. And did you get the August edition?
I did. I have to go back and look at the link, because then what I can do is put the link of it in my newsletter.
Excellent. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, because we had talked about that before. And also your link in the newsletter, your newsletter link could be put in the magazine as well. That way people can, so we can figure that out.
Yeah, we have to talk to each other and figure the logistics.
Just figure that out. Yeah, because that's
I'm doing the one for September now.
Okay, wonderful. We're doing the same thing. In fact, it should be out the first week of September, first, second, or third day in September.
Yeah, my newsletter is growing.
Good. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Same thing. We had a tremendous response so far. Even Joe Summers commented on the magazine. He's over in China, as you know. And so he would say, hey, very professional, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of thing. So that's good. We just got to keep them moving, keep them moving. Yeah. Because it's all about, publications. In fact, I just received in the mail African Voices. It's a magazine out of Harlem, New York. And it only comes out, I think, quarterly or something like that. And anytime it comes out, it is so well done. And I'm always surprised, I always forget about it. And then here it comes, boom, But if you haven't heard, folks, about African Voices, please pick it up. Outstanding poetry and short stories and everything else in there. And it's just really high-powered, high-level stuff. And I forget if there's what the charge is, very minimum, whatever it is. So, yeah, pick up African Voices if you can. Google that. All right, good stuff. So, did you have any writings or anything? Oh, you know what? What time of day is it? I don't even have my watch in front of me.
It's 7:35.
So I'm going to ask Brother Chris if he doesn't mind to pull up our first video tonight. He always brings some outstanding videos for us. And so we'll do that first, and then we'll come back and talk with Ro Brady. Right, here we go. Oh, beautiful. Stories of Africa. Yes.
Hi. Teach me how to dream. Teach me how to reach the stars when the future isn't as bright. Teach me. Teach me how to pat my own back whenever it's stabbed. Teach me how to hold on a little longer. Teach me how to spark the light when the dark draws a little closer. Teach me how to not give up. Teach me how to dress up and smile up. Teach me how to dream. Teach me how to hope and not lose it. Teach me how to walk on a tightrope when despair loosens it. Teach me how to fight. Teach me how to fight the battle that is right. Teach me how to light the candle for the night. Teach me how to dream. Teach me how to dream. Maybe I learn. Maybe I learn to chase it. Maybe I learn to rise up. Maybe I learn to spell success. Maybe I'll add a me. Maybe I'll laugh. Maybe it won't slip away. If you teach me how to dream. Thank you.
Hey, little guy, that's nice. I mean, he looked like he's about maybe what, 12 or less? 12?
Probably
And
about
looked like,
12.
yeah, Nairobi, Kenya, I'm sure. I like that piece. Teach me
I
how
like
to
it. I
dream.
love the African accent.
Yes.
I was on IG and I started following, and I can't read Nubi. I might not be pronouncing it right. And I
Okay.
clicked on his link tree, and he has a whole movie, and it looks like it is set in Africa. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but the link on his IG page takes you to his YouTube page, and he has movies. I was like, oh, this is really good. It's about, the one I started watching this afternoon is about a man who is he becomes king of his village in Africa. And everybody now, like, they didn't pay any attention to him before. And now everybody, like, he's got these women who all of a sudden want to cook him dinner. His mother is telling him to beware of now, like, well, yeah, they're all after you. And I was like, oh, this is really good. I have to finish it. But the
Fantastic. Yeah.
accents, the African accents, they are beautiful.
Yes. I watch a lot of African movies on Netflix, and then also in some of them have just gotten to be outstanding, great productions. And Pat was never kind of into them, and then all of a sudden we watched a couple that are series, like maybe 10 different episodes or more, and she's really gotten into them too, because the quality of the production is just outstanding, especially coming out of Nigeria and a couple other places. But yeah, so, and I love the accents, like you said, that always draws me in. But also there's, oh man, what is it called? I'm a subscriber. Okay, it's going to hit me, but they have movies from all over the world, mostly African movies, and United States in particular, but Africa, as well. And these are mostly small, independent movies and vignettes and all that. And it's on, you can see it, you can get it on Facebook, and then you can subscribe to it. But wow, is that well done? And some of them are just, like I said, outstanding. But anyhow, it'll hit me what it is. I don't want to take time to look it up now, but
yeah, I can't. I have to go back and see who followed me to find out the name.
Yeah, please do, because I'm interested in the you said IG, yeah, interested in that. Yes, indeed. Hey, let me mention something real quick, and that is, that tomorrow from 12 until 5, we will have a back to school event out at, in fact, Brother Chris, I think is pulling up there you go. Thank you, Brother Chris. As you can see, it's at 7967 Derry Street, and it is the Dollar General store out there on Derry Street, 7967. It is back to school jam. Notice that we have Giant Foods is being one of our sponsors, as well as Aetna Insurance. And, a lot of people donated all these wonderful items so that we can make sure our young people have what they need to go back to school. We're going to have Jimbo the Clown there from 1 until 3. We're going to have music by Bryant Dupree, DJ Supreme. He does a great job, and he's going to be on hand for the whole day. And we're going to have food and vendors and, just a few vendors, but just a lot of fun, bouncy house for the kids, some things that they can do with bubbles and all that kind of stuff. Just have some fun. But the main thing is to get some supplies to go back to school and to be ready, Now, I will say that here in the Harrisburg area, anyhow, we had a lot of different organizations that did back to school programs. So I hope that all the young people got out there and took advantage of at least 1, 2, or 3 of those things and really got some supplies, because people really worked tirelessly. And let me also take my hat off to Helen Spence and her whole organization of the Dauphin County Systems of Care. They do, I forget the name of it, but anyhow, once a month, the second Thursday of every month, they have a coming together of all these organizations, and Pat is usually in attendance. And they literally just kind of, coalesce and talk about things going on in the community. But then they get together and they put on this huge cultural diversity culture fest. And this year they had some rappers that came in, we're celebrating 50 years of rap music. They had, some great acts, but I was really impressed with the number of vendors that they had because they'd make it free and the vendors can come down and set up. And they always had this little village for children. So that starts around 3 and ends at 6. And I'm telling you, they had so many great giveaways and activities for the kids. It was very impressive. It was held on the riverfront. They call it Riverfront Park down across from the Harrisburg Hospital. And the place had a wonderful flow of people going through and everything was just high quality. So I was really impressed with that. And there you go. It's one of the folks, you can see the crowd there. And that's just the part where they were doing the rap music and stuff. And I thought that was Chris Harris. That's Chris Harris there. He probably is one of the DJs. We all know Chris, and that's his mom, of course, Kirsten Nicole. And that was one of the featured singers. And this Chris, doing his thing. Looked like he's MCing, quite frankly. Now, Pat and I stayed down for almost everything. Oh, this Chris Handles on the right. He's a Harlem Globetrotter. And in fact, one of the premier Harlem Globetrotters now. And he goes all over the world setting up and is doing great things. And then that's a great picture there of, I think that's Kirsten in the front with his daughter-in-law, her daughter-in-law, and also her son. And you can see they were all having a lot of fun there. Great picture, by the way. And there's, that's my man. That's their county commissioner, I believe. I think that's him with the hat on, the black hat on. Doing one of his things. George Hartwick, there you go. That is George. And so George is always on the scene doing good stuff. And then you can see some other great pictures. Man, that's Stokely. Stokely used to be one of the groups. And everybody was talking about him. I wasn't familiar with him, but they said it was the next, I think it was called Next, something like that. But anyhow, great pictures, Chris. Look at this. Got a little video. I'm gonna throw that in there. If that comes up. I don't know if it will or not, but it'll give you a taste of what was going on. But anyhow, it's a premier event. They always have, that once a year. And I remember 2 years ago, so they had Sheila E. here. And I just thought that was one of the best concerts. She was unbelievable. And at that time, I think she was like 62. And she jammed for these 2 hours nonstop. She played the drums, sang, danced. I mean, she had the energy, And it was just a high quality, big time production here in Harrisburg. So anyhow, hats off again to all the folks behind the scenes. Larry Moore is responsible for most of that, entertainment that you saw. He has Larry Moore Productions, and he was hired by the city, excuse me, and the county, I guess, to come in and bring those acts. And him and his wife, they travel everywhere, and they find these acts and they bring them in. Good stuff, man. Everybody involved. Anyhow, having said that, let's keep on pushing. This is the Writers Wordshop. I am Nathaniel Gadsden, and we are on The Voice, 17104 Harrisburg. And you see us here on Facebook Live and other platforms as well. And we're so glad to have you stop by. And we're chatting with Ro Brady, who is a longtime member of the Writers Wordshop, and she is a writer. And she's also now an editor, and she's doing a lot of great things. And so I wouldn't be surprised all of a sudden she become a major publisher. She's just doing it all. But anyhow, we're glad to have her on tonight. Generally, we have a number of people that come on, such as Neil Owens and, Wendy Nocherry Onye, and Dr. Dan Snowden and Nan Swanson. And also we've had Queenie Clem on out of South Carolina. Again, Roe, and who am I missing? My buddy from New York City. Wendy? I said Wendy Nocherry on you, yeah, but also from New York City, my sister. LaSalle Powder, yes, indeed. She's not only a great writer, she's also a very fine artist. So Pat and I bought like 3 or 4 of her pieces.
Oh, wow.
Good. Yeah, they're really well done. I was like, okay, LaSalle. She came down to Harrisburg, I guess, about what was that? It was, I think, in June or whatever, and she was featured at the State Museum with us. Yeah, we had a wonderful program at the State Museum, and she was featured there, and we had a great time. So that's when we got her paintings. But anyhow, we have a number of people to come on. If you would like to be a part of the Writers Workshop, we'd love to have you. You can always give me a call at 717-608-2312, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you and then hook you up and let you come on our platform. We want make it, not an exclusive kind of thing. We like to open it up, But at the same time, we're just, really careful. There you go. About who, who's going to come on and whether or not they're going to be serious. And Rose knows exactly what I'm talking about. She was hosting one night for us, and some people kind of hijacked the station and just acted like total fools. And it was just a shame because we know those people are out there, doing those kind of things. But, it's not going to stop us from doing what we do. And I thank Brother Chris and for hanging in there that night and, just getting everything, making everything right. So, and I thank Ro for, hanging in there and keeping it going for us. Anyhow, that's what this is all about. Would you like to give us a sample of some of your writings at this point, Ro?
Yeah, like I said, I've been working on a bunch of new stuff.
Good. All right.
Okay, something I haven't read before. Let me go back up here.
All right. Mhm.
I know, I was surprised. I have 33 new poems.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been, let me see. Something that
That is great stuff. I got to sit down and start writing. I just have to do it.
okay, so do you want a serious one or sort of a?
Anything you want to, I'm gonna leave it up to you.
This one, it has a lot of like metaphors in it. I'll read this one. It's called Backsplashes. I'm standing in my kitchen with porcelain floors and decorative backsplashes, looking down at my inherited collection of ironclad dreams, desires, and hopes. As I look out the window, I see azaleas growing wild in the backyard where little white boys with blue eyes and curly blonde hair run on weekly manicured lawns with little black boys with almond eyes and straight backs. I think out loud, wondering about the contemplations my mama had on a cold stove where hot dreams baked themselves dry. Its fiery red burners glazed pork and beans and fatback because times were lean and life was full of hard knocks. The ancestors I know are clapping loudly and praising the new day of accomplished achievements and stunning growth. My mama's mama stood on the dirt floor looking down into the fire in the kitchen of her nightmares, praying to avoid the backlashes of the master's whip. Picking up the cast of ironclad hopes and sitting them on the blazing fire where the desires to run for freedom for all its worth left her belly yearning for the taste of sweet black iron and earth. I'm standing in the kitchen, seeing dreams running under the flowing faucet of prayers whispered in secret closets. My eyes are closed, my dreams are spilling over on porcelain floors. I'm standing in my mama's kitchen of hope.
That's so pretty. That's a really well said piece. I like that. Standing in my mama's kitchen of porcelain floors of hope.
Well, I wrote this right after coming back from the African American Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. It was like 2:00 in the morning. I got up to go get a bottle of water out of the refrigerator. I was so thirsty. And I turned on the light and I stood in the kitchen looking at on my stove. I have 2 cast iron skillets.
Mm-hmm.
One of them Theo bought me years ago, and the other one was my mother's. And I just stood in the kitchen looking at the skillet, thinking, I never knew where my mother got the cast iron skillet, and I sort of just inherited it after her death.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the cast iron skillet. It happened to do with the history of things that we inherited and how things change and how hopes and dreams are built into things we inherit. Like my mother giving me, she didn't even give it to me. She died and it was in her stuff, and now I have it.
Yeah.
But I just stood there thinking of how things changed. The kitchen that in the house that I grew up in didn't have any of the things. Like I'm sitting here looking at my nice cabinets, my granite countertops, my hardwood floors. I'm thinking of, all the things that I have, the advantages
Mhm.
that my mother didn't have.
Yes.
And then I'm sitting there thinking about the room, the house that I grew up in, and my mother looking at, the meager little kitchen we had when I was a child, and thinking about the advantages that her mother didn't have.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it all of a sudden came on me like, oh, that has nothing to do with this cast iron skillet. It was the motivating factor to writing a poem about like generational things that we inherit and how we look at how they change.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. The explanation itself was worth the money. That's
I didn't
beautiful.
know if I
That's
was
something
making
else.
any sense, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm standing in the middle of my kitchen looking at a cast iron skillet. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden I was like, I'm gonna write that down.
No, I'm telling you, that really that resonated with me. I don't know about anybody else, but that was really well said, because I thought, wow. And I knew you were crafting something, and then I loved the way you tied it all together in terms of the ending of your piece. But then even your explanation as to how it hit you and how you decided to write. And like you said, it's not about the cast iron skill, it's about the inheritance. Wow, that's pretty powerful. Yeah. And we do inherit a lot of things. And sometimes, I was just thinking about this one, what do you call those clocks? The grandfather clock, I guess they call them, or something like that. So
Mhm.
Pat's mother, I remember when she bought that clock, and that was like really a pride and joy of hers. And now we have it, and it sits here, and I don't even think about it. It's just been sitting there. It's just an ornament. It might also be part of the wall. But then if I stop and I look at it and I think about it and all the history that clock had, and the excitement of getting that clock years ago, and then Pat thinking, I want that clock, and then all of a sudden, boom, we don't get the clock, but we get the clock. Why? Because we inherited the clock, and that
Mhm.
clock brings a
Mhm.
lot of memories, a lot of history, a lot of feelings with it. And so as you begin to explain, that's what came to my mind. It was like, wow, because we have a lot of things that sit around that we don't pay attention to until we pay attention to them.
Mhm.
Once you
Mhm.
pay attention to them, and they start speaking to you, man. Hmm. Yeah. I have two big bins of stuff and actually three when I think about it, that I need to just either do something with it or get rid of it. For me, it's very, very personal. I love this stuff, but I'm thinking of, hey, maybe I'll pass it on to my kids, whatever. I received a call once from a lady who I met, and her mother was transitioning. In fact, her mother died. Her mother lived in Africa. She was a white female, lived in Africa for years. And then she had all these wonderful trinkets and different things, a lot of stuff from Africa, but also she wrote some books. And the lady said to me, she said, my mother held on to these things because she wanted to pass them on to the family, to the grandkids and kids and everything. She said, but no one in the family really wants them. And it was like, wow. She said, so I wanted to put them in the hands of somebody who could really appreciate them, but who also would know how to, say, give them away, this and that, whatever. And her biggest thing was, I hope you will put them in the hands of people that can really appreciate them. And so I took them, Pat and I went down, we took the challenge of getting the pieces. First persons we talked to were people from Africa. And they were like, not super thrilled about them, because they were like, oh, well, we kind of grew up with these. And, we find that African Americans are more enamored with, these kind of things because, it means a lot to them. She said, so generally, but we have a lot of stuff probably in our own families and all that. So that was kind of a wake up. I thought for sure they'd be the perfect group to, but no, not really, not necessarily, because they haven't. So the other thing we found out about them is that they did not want to embrace it. Not that they don't like it, but they see a lot of that stuff having spirits in them, because that's what they were taught, as far as I am concerned. People came in and they decided to interpret your history and your religion for you. And so anyhow,
Then,
yeah.
my house is spirit filled because it was funny because when we moved up here,
Mhm.
I had inherited the contents of not only my mother's house, but my aunt's house.
Uh-huh.
And my aunt was 96 and my mother was in her late 80s when she passed away. So they had like old stuff. And I
Yeah.
love old stuff. Like I'm always wearing like old pins. I'm vintage queen here.
Okay.
And we had taken some of these things and put them in my husband's brother's garage because we just didn't have the room. And a lot of it is stuff that I inherited.
Uh-huh.
As you're packing, you mark a box, but sometimes it gets to a point where it's like you just get tired of looking at the boxes. So I ended up bringing, and it was supposed to be in storage, my aunt's wedding china. And it's sitting here in a box now. And I've been traveling with this wedding china now since my aunt passed away, which is probably maybe close to 20 years ago.
Wow.
So I said to my daughter, I said, she came up to Washington for my birthday. And I said to her, I said, you want to take back your, you can have it now. If you do, would you like your great aunt's wedding china? And she gave me this look like, what am I going to do with that? It was like, oh, never mind. She's 30. She wouldn't want, and to me, it's like, I've been traveling with this wedding china for over these years. And we've moved 3 times, probably in the last 5 years. And everywhere I carefully pack it. I make sure that it doesn't get broken. Anybody moving it, that's wedding china, please don't break it. And all these little antique things I have. Yeah. And when I went to the African American Museum, they had a set of Aunt Jemima salt shakers.
Yep.
And I have some on my book stand. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm supposed to go back on Sunday. My sister-in-law is coming. And I said, the only person is really ever going to value these are me. But now that I know they have them over there, I said, I'm going to put them in a box or call and ask them, would you like to have some more that I know are really old? Because then there's somebody else who will value them and they will, and they'll live on.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like willing to part with my Aunt Jemima salt and pepper shakers because they'll live on. Because after they'll probably just throw them in the trash. And I look at that as like part of my history. My mother kept, and she didn't know the value of them. Like I have my aunt's silver tea set that's in storage and I wanted to bring it, but I'm thinking like, okay, if I bring that, I want to bring her old, her break front where she put it on. If I bring that, I want to bring the old lace tablecloth that was on time. And it's just one thing. If he was looking at me like, no, put it in the box.
Because one of the things that came to my mind, and I'll never forget, I had this conversation with Janae East, and we were talking about the significance of so many people having African American Santa Clauses, Black Santa Clauses. And so we had this huge display down at the Whitaker Center, in that lower level there. And there were so many reactions. Even this one Black woman, I could tell she was just furious. Why would you bring that here? And what, why do you have to have a Black Santa Claus? And she worked there at the time. And I see her even now today, she still kind of gives me that look. Some people were offended by that kind of stuff because we were taught to be. So anyhow, but then I remember this young white guy, he was always real nice with the kid. And he said, well, what is the purpose of this? I don't get it. And I said, do you have to get it? What this is.
You have to get it.
Yeah. What do you have, why are you so invested in getting it? And so, it just was comical to me. And he was kind of giving me a look like, anyhow. But we had such a tremendous turnout. And the other thing that was interesting was how many people brought their pieces down. And they were so proud of them. So I'm saying we probably had about 20 to 30 people who literally came in and said, I just wanted to put mine on display. And we had on display all day long. And the Whitaker Center staff, they really kind of they thought it was a great thing. But it was interesting in different reactions. I say that because when you were talking, it dawned on me that all of us have some pieces that have a story connected to them. And it would be an amazing storytelling event to have us gathered in a space. We could bring in some items that mean a lot to us, and then we tell the story of those items.
I have a hard time because I would be like, what to bring? Should I bring this?
I know. It's so much to bring. You ought to see the garages I have. I kid you not, because same thing from my grandmother to my mother to just everybody, and then all the stuff I've collected over the years in terms of travel and, especially artifacts and stuff like that. I have some stories to tell. I know you have a million stories to tell. And so, so that's something that we may want to look at one day, is having a storytelling session, just some items that, tell
Like I said, it would be hard because I got like you have a lot of items, and now I've spread the love because the stuff that we couldn't take.
Mhm.
Theo has two brothers that still live in Harrisburg, so we have some in both brothers' garages.
Mhm.
And it was hilarious because we loaded up the truck and then Theo loaded up his van and we just kept taking stuff over to their house. So, and most of it is inherited stuff that we're just not ready to part with yet.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you point blank, I have two major garages. I mean, these things are huge. And right down from where our church used to be on Cumberland Street is the guy who was housing for me. And I do pay him every month, and I made up my mind I'm gonna have to do something because I don't want to keep that payment, and it's just sitting there. But then we had so much stuff. We just moved from next door. We were on apartment 13, we're down to apartment 12. Just that move alone, I had to get another whole garage. And our daughter had a garage, and she had a lot of stuff. But she said, "Well, hey, you can put some stuff in here, and I'll just, I'll pay half the rent for it." So that's a whole nother garage. I mean, a lot of stuff, right? And it's all valuable to me.
Yep.
But it's valuable to me to what point now? And so I really do think I need to do something. I was talking to one person. He said, "Well, you got to understand, in Africa, here's the way we solve it." He said, "What you ought to do is you ought to find a way of making it like your own little museum or something, put the stuff on display." And I thought, that's really not a bad idea. And he said, he may have said it a little bit almost facetiously, but there's stories to be told in this. And a lot of these things, my travels and this and that, whatever. Something we need to think about. Think about it. You just said I went to the African History Museum, and all they have in there are artifacts that tell stories, literally tell stories,
And I'm thinking about, because like I said, I have these Aunt Jemima salt and pepper shakers. And when I saw the ones that they have on display, I said to myself, I may actually call there, find out who their curator is, and say, I have some, would I be able to donate them? Because they will live on in that museum,
But let me say this to you.
It says donated by Ro Braddy.
No, absolutely. That's a great idea. But
Yeah.
remember, there are other African-American museums around that are looking for artifacts right now. In fact, there's one that's opening. I think it needs to open this year, or maybe it's going to be next year. But anyhow, I think, is it Alabama? They're putting a lot of money into this thing. I'll find out, because I started to kind of buy, Pat bought into the one that's in DC. And I started to buy into this one. But there are a number of museums now opening around the country, some larger, some small. And so they're looking for artifacts. In fact, Michael Dobb was made an offer for the one in DC, because he has the slave memorabilia, the collars and all that kind of stuff, and it's so nice. And they wanted it in the worst way. But if you gave it to him, it's going to take X amount of years and this and that. And he just wasn't ready to part with them, as far as I know. But it's a wonderful display. Oh my goodness! And then Mike breaks down the history of those pieces. He really did his research, him and his wife both. So I saw him when he was at Messiah College. He's had it at Penn State and other places. You'd be surprised if you took your artifacts and just made your own little show. That's what Mike has. I mean, and he's been at Penn State main campus. He's been all over the place with it, and could go even further. He said he's gotten to the point where it's stuff is heavy to carry, and so it's harder for him to move around and all that. But
I think about the artifacts that were in my family that I, at a younger age, did not value. I remember when my mother was going through Alzheimer's, and we moved her from the Hill District of Pittsburgh to Harrisburg.
Okay.
And my grandfather was a stonemason. He actually built churches, but he built a lot of white churches. And what he had to do, he had to place the little plaque in there that said either a black church or white church.
Yeah.
And he had, in our basement, there was a bucket, and our basement was the scariest place for me. But there was a bucket in the corner that had these plaques in it. And we also had the Green Book.
Yo, nice.
And I remember meeting, and her first name, I think her first name is Gertrude, I think. And I have her book here. I got so many books, I would better find it. But she's the woman who wrote Driving While Black. She was down at the Minton Scholar. Yeah. And I got to talk to her. She autographed my book and we talked about it. And I said, I spent my life traveling back and forth in the South with my parents because they were from the South and from that era of time where every summer we went home and I detested it, you know. And my father had this book, this green book that he kept in our kitchen junk drawer. And every time a family member wanted to go down south, they would come over to our house and get the book. And when they came back, I could hear my father now saying, "You better bring my book back here. You hear me?" And he would bring back the book and they would put it in the junk drawer. Now, when my mother passed away, I remember cleaning out her house and probably taking the junk drawer and just dumping everything in the trash because we had a big sale. And more than likely, I threw that green book in the trash can.
Oh my goodness.
And the stuff that was in the basement, I didn't go in the basement because even as a child, I thought that basement was scary. So I am sure that those plaques that said colored and white were probably still in that basement. And when I was talking to her, because she's actually, well, she was, this was several years ago, she was a curator here at the Smithsonian. And she was talking about, and I went up to her and I said, I could just strangle myself. I told her about what I just shared with you. And she said, yes, we would have probably, it would have paid you well if you would have had those things. So I was like, I was like, Jesus just didn't meant for me to have those things or I would have had them. But now I look at it valuable. Part of your history. And I had them like tangible that my parents had, my grandfather had, and I didn't really take my time to go through it. But then I learned my lesson when we cleaned out my aunt's house, and she was 96 when she passed away. Now there was a treasure chest. I had all of her old Bibles, and by the time we had the entire house packed up and ready to sail, I had found at least $2,000 that she hid in curtain hems and trash cans up underneath the mattress. There was, and back then gold and silver didn't cost as much as it does now. I found gold, I found rings and bracelets that she had because she traveled a lot. She was a nanny. I learned my lesson from when my mother died to take my time and clean it. You know, when we got back, and we put this money in the safe, and my husband, Theo, said, where'd you find all this? Where'd you get this from? I said, we went through all these things, you know, because it kept money in Bibles. Down here on the shelf, I have all my aunt's old Bibles.
Nice.
I learned my lesson.
That's the way to do it.
Of what was valuable then.
So, and if we could just simply somehow, like I said, categorize it and, you know, catalog it and all that kind of good stuff, and then take it out and begin to tell these stories just based on the visual items. They just had a display. I don't know if we talked about this the last time you were on, down at the Susquehanna Museum. And it was about the set-ins. Oh boy, where was it at? In a place that you never thought it would be. Let me see here. Dr. Snowden's on. Okay, we never see him. He always comes on. But great. Hey, Doc, how you doing, man?
Hello, how you doing?
All right, real good, real good. Glad you joined us. So real quick here, so we have a family here, the Thompsons. You know, Dr. Sterling Thompson and Barbara Thompson. So they went to oh my goodness, what's the name of school? Tougaloo, I think it's Tougaloo College or something like that. But anyhow, there was a white female there and a white gentleman who was sitting up front. And I thought it was curious that they were kind of up front, but they were not introduced. And the guy who was the major speaker, Dr. So-and-so, he was a young African-American gentleman who, relatively young speaking, who had researched his history about the set-in, because we knew about the set-ins in Greensboro and all that kind of stuff. He said, but these set-ins took place prior to that, and they were more vicious. They were very, very vicious. And so as he talked about all the stuff that happened at this particular college, then he said, oh, by the way, and he introduces the couple that was sitting there. It wasn't really a couple, it was just a white female. She happened to be in the picture. She was the one that they were pouring stuff on top of the head. She said, I went to that college. It was all black college. And she said, I was the only white student there. She said, people kept saying, well, why are you, you know? She said, I just fell in love with the college and decided I wanted to be a part of the movement, you know, and her family was not for that. But anyhow, she was the one that was being assaulted. And that picture became like a Pulitzer Prize winning picture of her sitting in between these black kids and her being attacked by white kids, you know. And she said, boy, did they beat us, and they did different things, all this kind of stuff. But anyhow, her telling of that story and then showing those pictures and different things, it was really, really powerful. And I remember I was just kind of like tired and I didn't want to go. And Pat kept saying, I want to go to this lecture they're having in Susquehanna. I said, why, you know. And then okay, I said, all right, it sounds interesting. I was not interested. I get down there and there's some, you know, black folks there that I know. And, oh, hey, how you doing? So now my energy's up a little bit. And then we get upstairs and I listen to the brother. And the brother was good. But when he introduced her and she started talking about how it was to be sitting there and how, you know, and all these things. And then Barbara Thompson, who and her husband Sterling, they were literally on that campus at that time and all this stuff was taking place. And so they had this picture. She said, I'm going to show you this picture. And I discovered that that's me. She said, this picture with me holding the speech is Barbara Thompson when she was in college. And they were walking out of like the gate. But Barbara said, interesting enough, that picture became extremely famous about the set-ins and the riots and all that kind of stuff. She said, but do you know that this particular picture was just simply staged? She said, we were taking a picture about college. But somehow that picture got mixed in with, you know, all the stuff that was going on and became a part of the civil rights symbol. But she said, actually, that was just a picture that we just kind of just took. Even though that is, we're all students, you know, we all have our bags and that kind of stuff. We did know about the race riots and all the other kind of stuff took place. But the question was raised, how come no one wrote about this? Well, now they have. I mean, in fact, I bought the books and everything, and they have a video. But I have to give that white female credit. She was very, very good in terms of telling you, you felt like you were there. She really kind of just, you know. So again, I'll say the storytelling is powerful. And we're sitting on gold mines in terms of the artifacts and things that can bring the stories out of us. The question is, how do we set it up and make that happen? Because just as you talked about the things that's in your home, I find that fascinating, you know. And then I'll end with this, and that is, I always think of Mrs. Annie Carroll, who one day said to us after she moved to Hawaii at the age of 80 something, and because her son was on the ship over there and this and that. So then she comes back and says, well, I decided to come back from my bucket list tour. And she drove from Harrisburg to Florida by herself at the age of 89. We're like, Miss Carroll can't do that. She did it. Not only that, she drives back. Come on now. Then she says, oh, my mother and my aunt are coming to visit me. She's 89 years old. We're like, dementia or something, you know? It's like, oh, goodness. Guess who shows up? Her mother and her aunt, 108 and 110. They come to Capital Presbyterian Church. At that time, I had a show on, and I told the story many times before, on WHP Channel 21, I think it was called Kaleidoscope or whatever. But anyhow, so I literally called the station and said, we have two people here who are sitting here talking like I'm talking to you. They are 108 and 110, and they are talking as clear and it's good, and they remember things. And I said, and their daughter is here, who we all know, Mrs. Annie Carroll. I said, is there any way? They said, what? They came right over, and they came over and featured them on the news that night. And they said, you know, oh, they remember all kinds of things, and they just sat there and talked. Now, and of course, when they showed the little clip on the news, it's not that long, you know, but they sat there and talked for almost an hour, if not more. And just remembering how life was, and you talked about the Green Book and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they lived that stuff. By the way, there's a thing out now called 10 million voices. Are you familiar with that at all? So check it out, because it's about African-American people reclaiming our stories, just like we're talking about now. And they started with on Good Morning America with Michael Strayhorn. He introduced this woman who decided to start this project, PhD out of wherever. And she has a thing called 10 million voices. And she's going back as far as she can to people who remember what slavery was like, or people who had ancestors in slavery and all that. And then they did Michael's family. Michael went and met people he didn't even know existed. And it's fascinating. So I want to hook into that. And I'm going to look it up. I forget the name, but check out the 10 Million Voices Project. Okay. And it's about our history and the things that we need to remember, to know, to discover, you know. So our story is still unfolding because we don't have enough historians out there writing. But, you know, as we do our poetry and we do our stories and everything else we do, we're you know, a lot of times we're connecting to a history that's been lost, stolen, and strayed. So folks, anybody that's out there watching this program, you know, check out that 10 Million Voices, but also, you know, think about writing your own story, you know, and then, you know, hire Rob Bradley to do the editing, right? Come on the Writers Workshop, you know, and get your book out. We'll contact Terry Martinez, and, you know, we'll get your book out. We have to do that, all right? Having said that, you know, Terry's done a lot of work, by the way. Terry Martinez happens to be our oldest daughter, and she was just over it before I got on the air. But she has a lot of projects. A lot of people are beginning to discover the art of writing and telling a story. And so I'm sure she's not the only person. There's probably a lot of people who are being inundated with, you know, new authors, people who also want to write something. And so, you know, I'm telling you, it can be done. And you have people like Queenie Clem. There's some other folks out there who are promoting authors all the time and helping you to find good publishers and, you know, editors and everything. So, you know, believe that it can happen, and then join the caravan. Join the caravan. Would you read another piece for us? I love that first piece that you read. Can you read something else for us? And then after you read this piece, we're going to go to another video with Brother Chris. Oh, and Dr. Dan Snowden. You have anything you want to read?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, so after Ro, let's have you read, you know, a piece. In fact, since you're just on, if you find two pieces for us, that'll be great.
All right, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, first we'll go with Ro.
I just wrote this one too. It's called Things That Twist My Spirit. There's a lot of things in the world that grab me by the back of the neck and pull my eyes and ears to full attention. There are times I sit back in my chair wondering if the world has taken full leave of its senses. Jack be nimble, but sometimes Jack don't be quick. Folks finding fault with the simplest things, leaving each other with the bitter taste of hatred and bile lingering along the edges of their lips. Rodney said it best. He was surely under a little strain when he uttered the words, "Can't we just all get along?" Kind of rhetorical, isn't it? Mama used to say there is nothing new under the old sun, and the good Lord is the same today, tomorrow, and yesterday. Well, some folks changing stuff up in a drop of a hat. I didn't think it was against the law to eat Skittles, but tell Trayvon that. Our hands are up, our mouths are open wide, sitting in front of our idiot boxes, praying and hoping we don't get shot. Brianna, we see you. We walk a fine line between love and hate, riding down the street, feeling good about our shiny brown faces, until our necks are put under the strain. George, we are here feeling your pain. My girl Carly, finding invisible children on the side of the highway. What did you need that somebody should have given you? Rest your mind, dear. We are praying you find your way. Closing my eyes, I see the old spirits of the past who used to tell me that I would understand the world in all its bumps and grooves. I'm not sure I ever will. I'm watching the news, shaking my head, holding my heart, clutching my pearls, and calling on the name of sweet Jesus. These are things that twist my spirit.
Yeah, so many different images in that piece and names that, you know, resonate with us, of course. But the way you used them was really, really powerful. Thank you. Man, oh man, yeah, just now. I don't think it was against the law to eat Skittles, but tell Trayvon that. How about that? Man, oh man, takes us back. Yeah, at least we forget. Sheesh. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Brother Dan Snowden.
Okay, I'll do a couple of pieces here. First one's called creativity. Creativity is that special trait which affords us all the chance to be free. The methods one sets to implement it determine what new things will come to be. Creativity faces challenges, just as many other entities do. Some go to great lengths to hoard this treasure, as if it were meant for only a few. Others just stifle creativity, doing everything to destroy its seeds, without an iota of realizing its role in meeting humanity's needs. Creativity is responsible for advancement through the ages. God's natural feats, man's artificial ones, have been presented in many pages. Creativity should be respected. It must also continue to be fair. If creativity meets its demise, life as we view it will thus go nowhere.
Good stuff.
That's one, and this next one I'll do is that hasn't. I'm still working on it, but I'll just share a little bit of it with anyhow, and it's called "What Has Happened to Our Society." As one of many U.S. residents, I am appalled at what has come to be. The present conditions prompt me to ask, what has happened to our society? There was a normal time in this country where matters of right and wrong were quite clear. Recently, though, things have changed for the worse, where truth and justice compete against fear. Nowadays, rude behavior seems okay. Its many forms take center stage, from the rantings of biased Kens and Karens to unfounded election fraud outrage. The source of this current consternation stems from a certain man and his fan base. Collectively, they've turned things upside down, making many problems hard to erase. These persons always go out of their ways to give hard times to those unlike themselves. This only divides the country further, a solution for which anyone delves. It's time for true law and order to reign. That is what most Americans believe. Here we must all forcefully take a stand, granting those who would harm us no reprieve. I mean, that's where it stands right now. But I may add more. I'm planning to add more to it later.
Good stuff, though. That's real good. I like it. Yeah. Huh. All right. I don't know if anyone else had any comments at all, but I like that. The Zell Powder, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, indeed. You going to read for us tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. So listen, since you're just coming on and we're getting close to that last half hour, why don't you go on and read now? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you do two pieces? Get you on board here.
I have to. All right. This is more growing up back home. So some of the words you may understand, some you may not. But it's just, what I grew up with. It's called Those Were the Days.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when 25 cents could buy a whole heap of things. Them days was golden. I was proud to get 25 cents. And if I'm good, 50 cents or maybe $1. I felt proud. I didn't care if my shoes was laughing. One big rip till my big toe showing, all my socks, what color are we in? Here now, I using whitening. And I would whiten that shoe. It was called butter bullets. I was proud. Butter was the thing. So for weeks, I go into school proud in my butter bullets. And it laughing harder than me. The next thing is my hair. It was picky. I couldn't put it in one. I didn't have the strength to pull it together. I had to use pony clip or pony comb, as they say, to make my hair look good. Well, don't talk about the copybooks. It was a pack of cards. It rip up. Scotch tape and glue couldn't help them. Don't talk about licks. Them teachers was no joke. It's guava whip and ruler with the blade in it. Man, when you get licked, so you're dancing like if you're dancing the cocoa. Or your foot on hot coals. Even those times, they were tough, but it was nice. The love was around. Nowadays, that LOVE is HATE. Where time has gone. Bring back the old time days. That's it.
Really good. I like that piece.
Mhm.
You said the butter, what is it called? What did you say again?
Butter Bullets. That was
Butter
the
Bullets.
name of store it called Butter.
Okay.
And everybody would run to buy this Butter shoes.
All right.
Everybody going to school with the nice Converse and expensive shoes, you in Butter shoes. So you were looked upon as you didn't have much, you were the low down, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I used to
Okay.
take pride in it and polish it up. And sometimes it ripped to the front.
Mhm.
So it is, they say, hey, look at your shoes. They will laugh at your shoes because they say it laughing when
Yeah,
it ripped like that.
yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh gosh.
You have another piece for us?
I'll have to look for it.
Okay,
So,
real good.
if you want-
Okay.
yeah.
We'll come back to you though. We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Brother Chris if he doesn't mind pulling up a third video for us. I think we've already had two, I believe. So if you can pull up another one.
Pause that. Pause it. Pause it.
There we go. Okay. Mhm.
Allow me to talk about my legend, the legend of legends, the Lion King of the land of Africa. If Ghana was a sports car, then Kwame Nkrumah would be the fitter. Yes, beyond the legend of the seeker. We are free. Literally, we are free forever. But psychologically, I cannot tell whether we are outside the balcony or we are still under the white colony. We were freed, but we refuse to be free because we're still opening doors for them to dictate to us what we should learn and teach. From the clothes that we wear to the food that we feed. It's like throwing banku and tilapia in the garbage and spending ×5 of the price on a poor pizza package. Then when I'm done, I complain that made in Ghana goods are lacking quality and good package. No, it's because I allow myself to be tricked into being a savage to my own people. So just keep waiting. But if our ancestors were to be awakened, they will ask in your national pledge, was that how you promised to defend the good name of Ghana? They'll be sad. So will Nkrumah. Momomre, Masaya Koma. Just look at the way we allow them misuse our resources in vain, or we destroy them by ourselves, all in the name of Galamsey. It beats my brain. Sometimes I don't know what to say. For the little benefit of today, we allow our big future to fade away. Who supervises them? Who supervises the supervisor who was supposed to supervise to ensure that our resources were not condemned? These are issues we discuss on TVs and radios, sometimes written with pens, but when it comes to taking actions, we relent. Yes, we relent to send to them who we meant to them, for them to understand, cause we spent to dents, yet we prove to be slaves to their dollars and cents. Is that really who we are? Or it is the way our educational system taught us, so we learned? So just keep waiting. But if our ancestors were to be awakened, they will ask in your national pledge, was that how you promised to defend the good name of Ghana? They'll be sad. So will Nkrumah. Momomre, Masaya Koma. Some of the youth are turning into vultures. Others are joining the old folks in dirty politics. What it means is that we should be changing the game tactics, but not to join them where the usual corruption fabrics. Listen, when I'm out, allow me to fight corruption. But when I'm in, I become corrupt than the corrupted. Are we not in a rat race? Just look at the cycle. If you doubt me, you can ask Bob Marley or Robert Kiyosaki. This is the era of development through inventions. So don't be a gangster. Allow me to celebrate the Nkrumah of our era. Suffolk and Tanka, the likes of the Lion of Boxing, Azuma Nelson, the General Sek, Kofi Annan, Anwar Sadat. This is my stand.
Powerful. Good African pieces tonight. Thank you, Brother Chris. Appreciate that. Yeah. So again, we have Lazille Powder with us, and she's just gave us one piece, and I think she's perhaps ready to bring another piece to us. Is that right? Not yet.
No, not yet. I look at
Okay.
somebody else, anybody else could go.
Yeah, good. So bring it on up. I do want to invite you again to come out tomorrow. Tomorrow being Saturday. That'll be the 26th, I believe it is. And we're going to be at 7967 Deary Street with our wonderful back to school special. And it's an event that you don't want to miss. It's presented by Nathaniel Gadsden's Writers Workshop and Life Esteem Incorporated. And we have sponsors Giant Food and Aetna Insurance, and they always do a great job. We will have Jimbo the Clown, who does balloon sculpturing and so many other things, be it for the kids from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. The event itself starts at 12 noon and goes until 5 p.m. We're going to have a DJ Bryant Dupree, and we're going to have a few vendors and also a bouncy house and plenty of materials and stuff to give out. Just going to be a lot of fun. So bring your family out. Let's have some fun and let's make it happen, okay? Come out and join us at 7967 Derry Street. It's the Dollar General out there on Derry Street, and we want to thank the Dollar General for being a major sponsor of this event and receiving us once again. This is our second year in a row that we've been able to be in their parking lot and to make this happen, okay? Hey, don't forget too that we have a couple things coming up. There's a lot of programs, in fact. One in particular will take place on November the 9th at the Forum. And we're working the Writers Workshop along with Life Esteem. We're working, in conjunction with the Police Athletic League, known as PAL, with Dr. Charles Stewart, who is Executive Director. We're going to do a major youth poetry presentation. And we hope to have some other entertainment as well, but it will be a contest in which there will be cash prizes. So students and anywhere in Dauphin County, any school that you participate in Dauphin County is eligible to participate in this free program. And there will be, again, cash prizes for first place, second place, and third place at the junior high level, or what they call it, not junior high anymore, middle school. And then at the high school level, the same thing, first, second, and third place prizes. But there will be no losers. Everybody will be a winner that will participate. And again, we're going to pack out the Forum. We want to try to have a huge event and really celebrate poetry, spoken word with our youth and from Dauphin County, okay? So that's Thursday evening, November the 9th, to start at 6 p.m. at the Forum, and it is free. We'll tell you more about that as we go along. We are going to have also a wonderful first annual dinner through the Writers Workshop, where we honor great writers, such as people like Roe Bradley and Lizelle Powder and Dr. Dan Snowden, all of whom are on tonight. The caliber writers that we have that support this platform, we want to support them. And then also others from outside of our sphere who are just people doing great works and also, giving back to community. We want to honor them as well. So that dinner was planned for October the 14th, and it was at the Central Pennsylvania College, and we're looking forward to it. However, we just decided to change the date. So we're going to let you know more, because we've been announcing this about that. But we found out that October the 14th is also the Saturday night in which we will have the annual NAACP banquet that takes place. And Pat and I have gone to that for the last few years with AXO. We certainly don't want to miss it. So we're going to change that date. So even though we announced it many times before, it'll probably take place in later October or in November. We will have the event there at the Central Penn College. So stay tuned for that, and we will have a lot of fun and keep you informed about that. And there's some other things coming up too. Of course, Kwanzaa should take place the pre-Kwanzaa program, the second Saturday in December. And that's always our largest event in terms of, work to put it together and the turnout. It's just always fantastic. And we have some things up our sleeve, like the Children of Adam Band out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, negotiating with them, and then also great poets and fashion show and everything else under the sun. So stay tuned for all of that. Having said that, you're getting a sample tonight of some great writers. We've heard from Roe Bradley, and maybe hear from her again. You heard from Dr. Dan Snowden, and also we heard from Lizelle Powder. And Lizelle, did you find that second piece that you wanted to do? Okay, wonderful. So we're going to ask Lizelle Powder to give her a second reading for the night, and we'll keep it moving. You're muted right now, okay, Lizelle? You're muted. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This one is called No Woman Don't Cry. I believe I read this already, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if I ever saw my mother cry. She was sacred, and everything she did was unto God. Her hands were blessed, that everything she touched was awakened. She worked like magic, that her presence soothed the atmosphere. Even when she left the room, her soul stayed back and whispered into the ear to bring peace to us, her children. Her feet stepped quietly as if she walked on clouds, as if angels lifted her feet and carried her to greater heights, heights she couldn't understand and value her purpose. Maybe she cried inside as her tears quenched her unwantedness, her sadness, as every organ screamed for help. We don't know what's going on, but we saw. Her melanin skin, once smooth, still looking like black gold, is now scarred like the dirt roads dug up, roads that were punished from the heavy toils of society. That's how she felt. It weighed on her. But still, she shed no tear. All she had was a beaming smile. I saw her, I saw myself, but we didn't cry. That's it.
You didn't cry. Oh, beautiful. That's a tribute to your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Ro, comment? Dan, comment?
I'd say call it an excellent piece, perfect dedication and whatnot.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of reminded me about the one I read about the porcelain floors and kitchen, about, not only do we find out the things that we inherited, but we sort of inherit people too.
Mhm.
Yeah, the characteristics of the people that we have loved and have loved us. And we inherited bits and pieces of those people.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And and it's amazing how we don't always think about that until, we kind of think about it. You get reflective and it's like, wow. And there's so much that person may have said or done or whatever, and it resonated with you, stuck with you, and helped to shape your view or, your direction that you decided to take or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. Hey, by the way, Doctor, we are still working on, and we'll let you know more, hopefully, come September, when we have our retreats. And we're going to try to make those retreats accessible to people outside of Harrisburg, so we can have that hookup and, get you involved as well. But we're hoping to have monthly retreats with Elizabethtown University. And Elizabethtown, I think they go by university now, but anyhow, and Jesse Waters, who's executive director there for the Bowers Writers Houses, will be setting that up. Dr. Shantae James, by the way, this is her book. She is at Penn State Harrisburg, and she will be setting up one for us on November the 4th, I think it is. And at Penn State Harrisburg, we're looking to have a retreat there. And she wants to make it big. And Jesse Waters said the same thing. He wants to get the faculty and the students of Elizabethtown, University involved with the Writers Workshop when we had these retreats. And the same thing at Penn State. So we're looking forward to those events, and we know they're going to be nice. Dr. James also is sponsoring something in September. I'll tell you more about that next week because I don't have it right with me. But she has a big reading that's coming up, and she's inviting people to come out, something like September the 13th or something like that. But anyhow, we'll tell you more about that as we get closer. And the same thing with Christine Titi. We had her on about a month or two ago, and she has some readers. Look like they're all from the continent, and they're doing a big thing about voices and this and that. But anyhow, that's going to be in Lancaster sometime soon, and I'll tell you about that, and that's going to be in September as well. And then also she's doing one here in Harrisburg. So and she just came back from the continent. She was there for a conference and a writers conference and all that. So she's doing it. So there are a lot of people out there making things happen. Hats off to you. Congratulations for what you're doing and how you're doing it. Whatever you do, just keep on writing. As Brother Chucky said, right on. Okay, let's keep it going. Keep it going. Nazil, anything up in New York that's coming up that you're involved in that you want to tell us about?
I'm not involved in anything really.
Okay.
And I have a lot of events going on right now, so many, but I haven't been able to keep up with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're in New York. You're in New York. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of stuff happening up
A
there.
lot of
Same
stuff
thing
is
with Roe.
happening. A
Yeah,
lot.
in DC, man, I know you guys got a lot of stuff to do if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have anything, nothing coming up right
Okay.
now.
All right, real good. Well, again, we have a number of things. The magazine should be coming out, the first part, and this is what is this? The 20, what is this? The 29th? No,
25th.
26 already. Wow, sure is.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at that. I'm like, is that really the 26th? Yeah, it is the 26th. Okay, but anyhow, so we're moving quickly towards having the magazine to come out. Ro has a newsletter she's putting together. And Ro, do you accept submissions?
Sure.
Okay, tell us about that.
I started this newsletter, I guess I've been doing it for about a year now, and it's growing. It's sort of attached to my book funnel.
Mhm.
My book funnel is the way if I want to do beta readers and send out like like an early edition of something I've written,
Mhm.
I'll send it out through my book funnel. And this has really helped my newsletter to grow because I've gotten a lot of promotions. Like the stuff that you see me sending out on Facebook is all part of book funnel.
Yeah.
Or I'll team up with several other authors and become part of their promo and
Mhm.
send it out, not only like promoting myself, but also promoting other authors. Well,
Mhm.
at the end of that, what happens is if you do one that's just geared on newsletter shares, you get a download of all these people who will have read your book and want to subscribe to your newsletter. And I've been doing those quite frequently, and my newsletter is starting to sort of pick up some traction. So
Good.
the more things you have that people click on, the more they'll open it and they'll tend to read it.
Absolutely, that's good
Yeah.
stuff.
So that's what I'm really working on, just trying to be consistent with my newsletter. And so far I've been doing pretty good. So it's
That's
growing.
good. That's
So the
good.
more
That's
things, and
good.
that will bring other, attractions to, other things.
Good stuff. Now, and I've been to ask you before. You at the beginning of the program here, we talked a lot about some things that are going on, and I discovered that you can actually use your computer to actually talk back to you, read your works. That's powerful. But now you keep saying beta readers. What does beta mean? Why the term beta?
Well, it's beta is simply meaning like before you publish it, you're getting people to spot thing, and it's not in lieu of having it professionally edited. Because I said before, like before you take your final, and it's not even your final because your editor is going to probably have some things that they're going to suggest you change, but you give the beta reader as a clean copy as you can, and then the beta reader will read it over again, and they're looking at it more as the reader. Hopefully if you got a really good beta reader, they'll come up and they'll show you like, oh yeah, you missed a couple things and you can go back. But they'll also look at it as the reader. Like, did you get the story? Were there parts of the story that were missing? Did you basically get the story? And that's what the beta readers that I've been, and they're fabulous, and I also do a Kindle Vella. This will be my third Kindle Vella that I'll start this fall. And they're great because I'll put it out and, usually I try to get a point where maybe I only have 1 or 2 errors, but they usually catch them for me.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. Well, brother, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Brother Dan, did you have another poem for us?
Sure, but I'd also like to share something with you as well.
Okay.
I guess last week during Third in the Berg, a black-owned art gallery called the Nayusi Gallery over on 1224 3rd Street. They actually they wanted to try it out with a poetry reading, and I was one of about 3 poets who came in, and we got about I guess an hour and a half's worth out there, and that's something that they're going to do on a regular basis. It would probably be on alternating Fridays, so they don't interfere with Third in the Berg. So I just want to let you know that was out there, and in case anyone was interested, could try it out.
Who were some of the poets that showed up?
Well, I was one. and the other two individuals, they weren't from the Writers' Workshop. They were actually from the blacklisted poets of Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm. You remember who they were?
I know one of them was. Let me see. I know Adam was one. I think his first name's Adam. That's for certain.
Okay.
Not certain what his last name is. And I guess the other individual was one who actually was a woman who helped coordinate that. I can't recall her name, but I mean, I'd know her if I saw her.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder who that is. That's great though. That's a nice little gallery. I've been past a million times and it's never open. And so I got to get the flow when it actually opens and that kind of thing. Because I've never actually been in it. And I understand they have new management. A guy named Butcher Barber, I believe it is, but Barber's last name, I'm pretty sure. And he's great. So it's a beautiful gallery, by the way. If folks have never seen it,
Yes.
you know, if Brother Chris has any pictures he can pull up, but it's Nawuzi Art Gallery. And it's right next to the old, what is that thing called? Something like Dauphin County Historical Society or something like that. I don't know. But
I think that's right. Yeah, it is. It's in right in that area there.
Right in that area, right,
Sorta.
literally right across the street from the Broad Street Market and from Midtown Scholar Bookstore. Yeah. So it's a great.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, small little gallery, but beautiful though, absolutely beautiful. Anyhow, and what's cool about that too, by the way, the principal investor in that happens to be a brother from I think Haiti, and he's a medical doctor and happens to be a surgeon at two of the local hospitals here. And yeah, and he's investing his money back to the community, trying to do some things. So that's great. Anyhow, this is good stuff tonight. Thank you all for coming on and keeping things rolling. We have about 12 minutes left, and I think it's always good to end with good word. And so, Ro, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do one. Nazil, if you can do one, and also brother Dr. Snowden, if you could do one, we appreciate it. So I'm gonna start with Ro first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I found something else.
Okay.
Here's I don't know, I might have read this one. It's called Locked. It's a journey. You are still at the starting line. The rat tail comb pulled the strands of untamed, disrespectful fluff into a thread-like crown of glory. An inch longer it grew, pride set in a foot taller was the walk. The Nubian queen was starting to emerge. No longer enslaved by societal standards of political correctness or Anglo-Saxon grade of assimilation. The journey began, locked. He had a name now only known as 40722, leaving the last 3 digits alone in their stance for a walk of freedom. They just called him 40. No acre, no mule, only fields of injustice to plow through. Mass incarceration, miles of segregation, no hope for restoration. He just saw it as locked. No lost causes here. We march through the streets, bolstering remnants of Black pride. Our faces numb, some wanting to commit suicide. Only the weak left, no room for the strong. She stood at the front of the line, wearing her Angela Davis crown. Fist raised, heart open, ready to defend those young ones lost to the street gangs and opioid slain. He no longer put up a fight. There was no gun that night. He should have walked away. No pride loss was worth this cost of life vigor. He's got jail time. Babies pulling at her young breasts. This whole thing is one big mess. No job, no welfare line, nowhere to go. So she looks down at what used to be her crown, now a mass of tangled hair. No fee for upkeep, so she had to let them go. Now all she knows is what used to be, but now what is locked.
Locked. Good stuff. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Dan, Dr. Dan,
Beautiful.
can you do a piece, please?
Yeah, sure. I want to bring this one up here. I'm trying to bring. Okay, I'll just use this.
Okay.
This one was actually one I wrote during a retreat called Approaches to Solving Problems. Sooner or later, we'll all have problems, which can last for the short term or the long. The methods that are used to resolve these should be numerous and made very strong. Problems may receive their resolutions even before they can ever be born. In this case, planning and perseverance can ensure that problems are never born. Another approach to these problems is encountering them at their sources. Here, the problem can be starved of food, which then leads them from us to divorces. Those pesky problems can also be met by opposing forces after they've spread. In applying the proper mix of tools, the problem shall likely end up quite dead. There are times when problems become so large that more than one approach may be needed. Thus, using multiple resolving tricks makes their problem's whims going unheeded. As shown here, problems are ubiquitous, making us all quite exasperated. Yet once these shared resolutions are used, problems are just best eviscerated.
Very good. Yes, they are. Some problems seem like they don't want to go anywhere. You tried your best to get rid of them and they just keep hanging around. But that's a good piece, though. Thank you, Dan. Good stuff.
Certainly.
All right. Brazil powder from
Nice.
New York.
All right, this one is called Denied. I don't think I've ever read this piece, but I wrote it just to highlight what goes on in certain institutions. It's called Denied. Getting ready to prepare myself to be denied. Why do I bother? Do I love rejection? It's been 4 times already being turned down. But I didn't mind. Those times were different. As I called a cab, my mind filled with great anticipation, positive thinking, positive affirmations. No dark clouds swimming in my head, creating a tornado of doubts. As I came out of the car into the building, I lined up like everyone else. When it was my turn, I approached the customer service rep, showed my application. She spoke kindly to me with a big smile on her face. I wish she told me that you are approved and you got everything you asked for. Here's your approved application. Snapped out of my dreamy world, twitching my fingers only to be told, here's your number and to have a seat. I sat patiently in anticipation, wondering what next. Walked up to the window. I breathed heavily, wide-eyed, and stared. What are you applying for? She asked. What? I said to myself. Is her eyes closed? Isn't she seeing the tick marks? I asked myself. I repeated what I was applying for. The rep didn't give a chance of the day for me to explain. You are over by this amount, denied. You are over by that amount, denied. You are not qualified for emergency, denied. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I managed to smile with dignity. I said thank you and walked away. What do I care anymore? I make too much. Poverty is the key. I must drag my butt with my tongue hanging out and my belly in my hand, begging for water and food. It's never-ending cycle. It's losing a battle. To get help, be like a vagrant and lie through your teeth. Hit rock bottom and say thank you for understanding. It will not stop. Society is clever and play the game very well. I guess I will play the game too, and may the best side wins. That's it.
And may the best side win. You in it to win it. I get it.
I just depicting, well, years ago, I used to go to the social services, and I don't want to say anything, but I just like with race or anything, but I just saw a certain type getting through. And when it comes to us, it's like if you have to be really down to the ground for them to really say here. So I wrote about the experience going and line up to get the assistance and whatnot. And you see other people getting through, like, it's not of your kind. So I just had that thought in my head. So I say, like, you have to really be rock bottom, and how they project the finances. They look at your annual. They don't look at what you're taking home. So it's really, really sad how they treat you. That was my
yeah. And you're speaking for a lot of people who understand exactly what you're talking about. But you persevered, and that's the good news. That you are still standing. They showed a piece on Facebook the other day, yesterday actually I saw it, where it showed what is her name, the great gymnast that won all those medals in the Olympics, little short something.
Biles.
What is her name?
Biles, right? Simone Biles.
That again? Yes.
Simone Biles.
Yes. Simone Biles. That's her. Absolutely. And they said if you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. And then they showed her having all these different falls off the balance beam and different things. But then they also showed her winning all these medals. It's like, hey, she didn't just get there by just jumping up and all of a sudden being the greatest. She had to work at it. And so all of us have to. And the same thing in life. It doesn't matter what endeavor we're talking about. You're going to run into some obstacles, some storms. You're going to be denied, right? But you keep on, especially if you know who you are and you believe in yourself. Just keep on, keeping on. I do want to lift up this little book here. It's a small little book. It only has about, let me see how many pages it has. And it's pretty powerfully written, very revealing. Only has 69 pages, and this is it. It's called Love Lessons by Terry D. Okay, Love Lessons, cool little book. And she's very revealing in this book about her life and her loves and all that good stuff. Well done. And so Terry D again is a publisher of T-Dub Publishing. And she's the one that published our anthology and some other things here. And she's doing a lot of good work. And then you have some other folks out there as well who, is doing good stuff. But this little book here, actually, a number of people bought this and we're really kind of excited about, what she had to say. And so just want to give a little shout out to Terry D. And that's spelled T-E-R-R-I and then D. And, check her out. Check out all she has a number of different publications, as does Ro Bradley. As Lazille, you have a book as well, right?
Yeah,
that's right. And the name of your book?
Oh, that is one. The last one is Welcome to America, New Rules, New Life. And then the one this year, Women Right Now, a combination of authors just writing about the traumas of life.
Fantastic. And Ro, for those persons just hearing you for the first time, what's the name of your book? Some of your books?
Well, I have a series. I call it my Warm Heart series. It's Scarred, it's Surrendered, and Waiting. They're 3 novellas. When you put them together, it's one complete novel. And I have a poetry book, Fried Okra and Green Tomato Poetry. And I have several children's books. And I'm also Kindle Vellas right now, 3 of those.
Fantastic. Good stuff. And Brother Dan, I know we're still talking about you getting that book out of yours, that poetry book. I know you have enough poetry at this time, so let's keep working on that, man. I'd love to see you do it. All right.
Yep,
well, listen, we've come to that
goal, man.
Okay. We've come to that magic hour of 9 o'clock. And one thing I try to do is be true to our time. And I want to thank, again, Chris Thomas and The Voice, 17104 Harrisburg, for giving us this space. And I want to thank Ro Bradley, Lazelle Powder, and also Dr. Dan Snowden for coming on tonight. And I hope that you gleaned a lot out of this, not only great writing, but also some great information. And so whatever you do, keep on writing, keep on believing, keep on trusting, keep on doing. See you guys next week, I hope. If not, we'll see you next time. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night.
Night, everybody.
Here you go. Local artists unplugged. Yes, indeed. That's Dr. Shante James. All right.
Nice.
Nice picture there, brother.